Hello, everyone. Juxtaposition here. Hope everyone's having a great day, sipping nectar of the gods from your Juxtaposition 1 coffee mug. Hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Today's video will be entitled Juxta's Observations. Let me repeat, Juxta's Observations. These are my observations for the last few years and from daily activities of living, my ADLs, activities of daily living, ADL. This is where I get my observations, just like the gentleman that's over my left shoulder here, my left shoulder. To your right, to my left, is Lieutenant Colombo of the Los Angeles Police Department Robbery Homicide Division. This is Lieutenant Colombo. His first name is Frank, but they only revealed that visually in one episode when he showed his identification, real ID. All right. I could have also called this video what it's going to be. It's my soliloquy of loquacious linguistical lunacy. Loquacious linguistical lunacy. That's today's video. So strap in, grab yourself an adult beverage, put it into your Juxtaposition 1 mug. This is from me walking around town, going to the post office, looking in my P.O. box to see how many people sent me money to order this coffee mug, for example. Walking past the Church of Scientology, which in our town, the town of Sonoma, they have a Church of Scientology in an office building on Broadway, but they don't call it Church of Scientology. You see, that would be too obvious. They call it the Human Behavior Center, Human Improvement Center. That's what it's called. It's a Human Improvement Center. So for those people that want to improve their humanity, they go to Church of Scientology and turn over their checkbook to them. All right. All right. Prepare yourself. It's going to be pretty brutal truth. That's what my video, that's what my channel is based on, is brutal truth. Red pilling everyone. And the problem is that people think my channel is a downer, Debbie Downer, but it's not, because it's a cathedral building show. This is actually for real civil engineers, not phony fake civil engineers like Richard Gage, who's a complete fraud and is a phony fake civil engineer with no clients and no civil engineering experience. All he knows how to do is waste people's time and babysit Department of Energy scientists until they're dead. All right. We build cathedrals, and you do that by planning and engineering and through architecture, and then through ordering the parts, the component pieces, building materials. And then you have to build brick by brick, stone by stone. And it's a very long process. Like to build a pyramid takes 15 to 30 years to build a pyramid, depending on the size of your pyramid of power, your obelisk. Everything in this world is in plain view and it's hidden. People don't notice the things that are right in front of their faces. So that's one of the one of my observations is, just like Lieutenant Colombo here, he likes to get that background information pinned down. That's what he tells his suspects when he's asking seemingly trivial questions of minutia that are wasting people's time. But Colombo always retorts, I like to get that background information tight. That's because the devil's in the details, right? And that's one thing I've learned to live my life like Lieutenant Colombo, the fictional television detective who does not exist in your actual municipal police department, nor is a detective like this at your county sheriff either. We have a nation of blind and deaf people, deaf, dumb, and blind people. Like, for example, Rand Paul, he's deaf, dumb, and blind. Anthony Fauci, well, I don't know if he's deaf or dumb, but he's been well compensated to lie to the people of America, as has Rand Paul. Rand Paul and Jeffrey Epstein and Anthony Fauci, they could be the same person. They certainly can switch chairs. They're all bald-faced liars, 100%. And they're criminals, all of them. Rand Paul's a criminal. Ron Johnson's a criminal. Donald Trump's a criminal. Okay. Arnold Screw Your Freedom Schwarzenegger, criminal. Jesse Ventura, criminal. And that's one of my observations is how many lies these people have told whilst I listen to them. And I've listened to all these people and I've had enough. Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, Ron Paul, Greg Abbott, Gavin Newsom, okay, Jerry Moonbeam Brown, liar, liar, pants on fire, Ronald Reagan, liar, liar, pants on fire, Ronald Reagan. Oh, yeah. You can't be on television and tell the truth. It's impossible. It's implausible, and it could never happen in real life. There's no truthism on television. I'm going to give you real life examples based upon my activities of daily living. But for example, I posted a video a couple hours ago regarding the city of Hayward, California, which I happen to know quite a bit about Hayward. And I have a soft spot for Castro Valley and Hayward and San Leandro, which are 3 towns that are close by. Hayward is a city. Castro Valley is a town. And this gentleman, Metal Leo, he goes around videotaping for YouTube, boarded up retail stores, restaurants, and businesses throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. Concentrates mostly on the San Francisco County and city of San Francisco and San Mateo County businesses. But this time he went to the east across the Oakland Bay Bridge, and he visited the East Bay, and where he did the same thing he did with Fisherman's Wharf, which is he documented Fisherman's Wharf recently that they are demoing Al Liotta's restaurant, and the only business that is open at Fisherman's Wharf is an In-N-Out Burger. Even the Bubba Gump's franchise restaurant has been closed, but there's no Dungeness crab. There's no clam chowder. There's no crab sandwiches. There's no fresh fish anymore. And this is where Joe DiMaggio's parents and Joe DiMaggio and his older brother worked as kids. They worked at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, right? When we had a San Francisco. Well, what annoys me about Leo is he never looks up at the sky, even though his videos of himself, you can clearly see over his head and above his shoulders, there's polluted aluminum chalk, chemtrails all over the skies, and silver dust. And I don't mean silver bells. I mean silver smart dust, neural dust. I mean MIMS, micro electronic mechanical sensor systems. That's what I mean. And Leo, who has 92,000 subscribers and typically gets a couple of thousand views on his videos, he conceals the fact that the skies are polluted because he never discusses it. Also, you can actually hear airplane noise, either turboprops and jets flying over his head. He never, ever, ever comments on the noise pollution above his head, ever, which I guess is how you could have 92,000 subscribers, but only 2,000 of them actually watch your videos, right? It's kind of like Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson has about 3.5 million subscribers, but he has fewer views than the Juxtaposition 1 channel. I typically get, 2,000 to 5,000 views. Tucker Carlson's lucky to get 300 views. And he has 3,500,000 subscribers, and I have 17,000. So I don't know how you could have an audience that tunes you out at such dramatic percentages as does Tucker Carlson, whose father worked for the CIA and the State Department in radio. He was the voice of public radio, and he was the United States ambassador to a NATO atoll, which is called Archipelago Island off of Tunisia, not off Tunisia, off of Ethiopia, east in the Indian Ocean. Tucker Carlson's father was an ambassador to a NATO base, archipelago in the Indian Ocean, meaning you don't have to go to meetings because there's nothing to do there. They're just all NATO troops. All right. All right. So, first things first. So, I have a disturbing amount of airplane traffic over my town for the last 4 years. For 4 years. Disturbing means noisy, and it means redundant. I have 90 to 100 overflights a day, 16 hours a day. Like that means every 10 minutes I got a plane over my head, every 10 minutes. This has been going on for 4 years. The city council has never once mentioned it. I've spoken to a number of Sonoma County sheriff's deputies who are actually annoyed that I bring it up, and then tell me that they don't have authority over the airspace above. But it seems that no one in my township has any authority. They don't even want to talk about it. But the fact is, no one in your town has any authority over your air, over your pollution, or over airplane traffic. They have no discussion. They have no authority, and they have no power to do anything about it. So I understand that they're impotent, right? But by keeping silent, you're keeping many augmented people unaware of the danger. This causes scintillation. The reason why it's noisy, these planes can run on silent mode. They have silencers and they can run whisper mode, whisper silent mode. And they deliberately on purpose do maximum noise mode because it's ultrasonic sound. You do know that it's not about EMF anymore. It's not about electrical magnetic resonance. That's not the only kind of Havana syndrome weapons that we have. We have sound weapons, which are sonic weapons. Submarines have them, whales have them, and we have them over my township, Sonoma County, California, in the town of Sonoma, north of San Francisco, 60 miles north of San Francisco. All right. So as the crow flies, a little less than 60 miles. Anyway, wanted to know that we have air pollution all of our skies every day. We've never had a clear sky day in over 4 years. Nobody says anything about that. We have people blind as bats and deaf as Helen Keller. I mean, I think people like Helen Keller have better hearing than the people in my town. People like Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, they have better vision than Rand Paul and people in my town. All right. So whenever there's a grass fire, the local media, news people who are completely corrupt, they will report that we have a spare the air day, quote unquote, spare the air day, and that there's brown smoke and air pollution, poor air quality in the sky. But 99% of the time we have silver smog in the sky and you never discuss it. You don't ever do a spare the air day. You encourage people to go out and inhale, ingest as much aluminum chalk and polymers as possible. And you know that 99% of the pollution in the air is more or less invisible when it's in front of your face. You really need an ultraviolet flashlight, turn all your lights out, get pitch darkness, or go out at nighttime and look at the LED lights and you'll see all of the debris floating around between your nose, your eyeballs, and the LED light. In between, you will see what appears to be London fog. London fog. It's not London fog. It's chalk from Coast Aluminum in Hayward, California, which is another thing that annoyed me because my friend Leo went over to Hayward and he documented B Street, which is the downtown retail area near the Civic Center. And he did the usual emphasis on the closed restaurants and retail shopping. But all he had to do is go another mile on Industrial Parkway. And right off of that, he has 3 manufacturers of the problem that he's documenting, but he doesn't even understand. United Nations Agenda 2030 is best manifested if you go visit Coast Aluminum, which makes aluminum dust. And across the street from Coast Aluminum, in the same zip code, is American Polyfoam. They make plastic dust. And do you know that those 2 companies share their products and they mix and match? And then we have a COVID vaccine maker called Dinovax Technology, whose corporate headquarters is where Chiron used to be, and Novartis is in Emeryville, which is next to the UC Berkeley campus. They have a corporate headquarters there, but their manufacturing plant of their COVID vaccinations, it uses the same parking lot, and their employees park in the same location where the railroad track backs up to their back door, is in Hayward off Industrial Parkway on Huntville Road. And there they are next to Coast Aluminum, shares the parking lot with Dinovax Technologies, which are both directly across the street from American Poly Foam. You put all three together and you've got the recipe for a COVID vaccine, which, by the way, is the same friggin' recipe as the airplane jets dumping this pollution over the sky. That Leo from YouTube, with his 92,000 subscribers, is blind and deaf to what's going on at Hayward. So he took the trouble to travel from, I think he lives in San Bruno or South San Francisco. He went all the way across the bay to the East Bay. He went all the way down to B Street in Hayward to document something that could just do a phone in on, because every town in America looks like downtown Hayward. Every town in America. Don't make me say Seattle. Don't make me say West Hollywood. Don't make me say parts of Culver City. Don't make me say Quincy, Illinois. Don't make me say that. All right. So he forgets to document the most strategically important NATO hub, NATO, DARPA. This is a DARPA contractor, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. They're the ones that pay and fund UC Berkeley to develop smart dust. And they had an office right there. They've closed it now, and it's back in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and part of Analog Devices bought Dust Networks. But Dust Networks also shared the parking lot with Dynavax and Coast Aluminum and was across the street from American Polyfoam. For 12 years, it was sharing that parking lot. It's just recently, in the last year and a half, that they merged with Analog Devices and moved back to Cambridge, where the RAND Corporation has an office. And of course, you have MIT and Harvard in Cambridge. All right. So one of my observations is that YouTube content providers are blind and deaf. They don't look at the sky and they don't hear the airplane traffic, meaning that YouTubers generally don't report on MEMS, MOSA and SOSA. They don't report on messages. They don't report on silver pollution, air. They don't report on Spare the Air Day, that you should not be out videotaping the downtown vacancies when you're ingesting aluminum chalk, and you shouldn't be at the beach, and you shouldn't be getting a suntan. And your suntan lotion, your sunscreen is full of the same stuff, the nano, which is aluminum chalk. When you put sunscreen on, or when women put makeup on, they're putting aluminum chalk on their skin, which is tethering you to the cloud 24/7. You don't need a cell phone. You don't need a Fitbit or a Ring camera or a pulse rate Garmin belt. You are tethered to the cloud because you're augmented with smart dust. And no one on YouTube is reporting on that. They report on grass fires and they report on EMF in a joking way. So we had the Super Bowl this year in California in Mountain View at Eddie DePartola Stadium, which has a Masonic number in Mountain View. And all the hoopla goes on for 2 weeks before the Super Bowl with the build up to it. And we had the journalists, who are most definitely not journalists, the sports reporters. They interview the players every day after practice and ask them nonsensical questions as part of their loquacious lunacy. They ask repeatedly stupid questions. That's why they're so loquacious. Anyway, they're nonsensical, baseless questions. One of the questions that was asked of one of the New England Patriot wide receiver, a guy named Mac Hollins, spelled Hollins, Mac, M-A-C-K. They asked a wide receiver, Mac Hollins, about was he concerned that there was a PG&E power plant located across the street from his practice facility as he prepared for the Super Bowl. This is in February 2026, to which he responded, I believe I wrote it down here. Let me see what he said. It was a canned question designed to get him in trouble. All right. The athlete in question is Mac Collins. He was at the time a New England Patriot wide receiver. This was during the Super Bowl week, and he spoke with reporters, and they asked about EMF, electromagnetic frequency exposure, and did he think that that could affect humans? And he referenced some studies that he'd heard about where EMF was impacted plant growth, that there were EMF rays placed adjacent to plants and it retarded their growth. So Mac Hollins said, quote, "I feel like there's been a lot of studies on plants where you put an EMF next to a plant and it doesn't grow well. I am not a scientist though, but if that's affecting plants, what does that do to humans?" End quote. And he also stipulated that if he were a member of the San Francisco 49er football team, he would want them to move their practice facility away from a power station. Okay. Then, of course, the media does what they always do. They bring in a fake pseudo expert, Gerald Bushberg, a Jewish PhD from University of California, Davis. Wouldn't believe a thing. Anyone who gets paid a salary from UC Systems, University of California, Davis, or Berkeley, or UCLA, or UC San Francisco, the criminals that work there. You're going to believe Ann Doudna, Jennifer Ann Doudna. Are you going to believe people like David Smith, who was the director of the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic? He's not even a medical doctor. He doesn't see patients. This Gerald Bushberg, he doesn't see patients either. He's a clinical professor. He sees students. And he is the dean of radiology and radiation oncology, director emeritus of medical health physics programs of UC Davis Health and Professional Services in Sacramento, California, UC Davis School of Medicine. What a disgrace. What a disgraceful person, Gerald T. Bushberg. And this moron, this lunatic, this fool on a hill, he's mocking a steroided out athlete who's already on a boatload of drugs, saying that he doesn't have valid concerns about radiation poisoning. Are you on drugs? What's wrong with you? We are all subjected to Havana syndrome in all rural areas as well as urban areas like Sacramento, like Mountain View, like Sonoma County, like Napa County, like the city of San Francisco. Oh, the 49ers, now we're saying, they even bring in Mike Florio and Chris Sims, two steroid concealment pseudo journalists who have a podcast. They even make a joke about the 49ers training camp this year, blaming all of the injury of 20 players on EMF radiation damage in a joking way. Like they said to me when I was talking about Lance Armstrong's doping in the 7 Tour de France's that he won. Did I live in the basement of my mother's house? Am I a tinfoil hat wearer? Right? Did I misremember the facts? Do I have a conspiracy theory problem? No, I don't have a conspiracy theory problem. I don't do theory. I do practice. I do actual conspiracies. And you do know that 100% of felony crimes involving 2 or more people are conspiracies, right? 100%, not 99, not 1%, not 5%, 100%. So the only real criminal activities in this world are conspiracies, you dumb dummies. Look what they did when people like myself were implying that Lance Armstrong, coming back from cancer, might be using illegal drugs to win the Tour de France. For 13 years, they lied and concealed. They flew in Sheryl Crow to be a fake girlfriend for Lance Armstrong, a fake girlfriend from Hollywood. Then they flew in Robin Williams before Robin Williams was murdered. Robin Williams making jokes about the French, saying that the French were jealous losers. Anyone who accused Lance Armstrong of taking illegal drugs was a liar and was a jealous loser, a liar and a jealous loser. Well, it looks like Robin Williams was 100% wrong, right? It looks like juxtaposition was 100% correct, right? I said he was doping, but I also said everybody's doping, including the managers, just like the 49ers. Every one of the athletes is on drugs, but guess what? So's their coach. You know, their lead coach, their head coach, Kyle Shanahan, he went over the center line and head on collided a 21-year-old girl in front of the Stanford University gate, well, one block from the front gate of Stanford. And not a single person's asked, what have you been drinking that night? You know, or what drugs were you on, Kyle Shanahan? He's on drugs and he's probably drinking too. I went through this with Tony La Russa, who said that Mark McGuire was clean and that Jose Canseco was a jealous loser who took shortcuts. Tony La Russa's had 3 DUI arrests. He's a lying piece of crap. I wouldn't believe anything Tony La Russa says. He was the head coach of a World Series baseball team, and he can't tell the truth. He lied about Mark McGuire. He lied about Jose Canseco. He lied about his own drinking problem. He lies about his daughters from his first, second, or third marriages. I can't keep up with these drunkards who get jobs in the NFL. And do you know who took over Kyle Shanahan's head coaching job because he has a concussion from his head-on collision into this woman driving a Mercedes-Benz? A guy who snorts cocaine and sends it on a TikTok video to his girlfriend. So the San Francisco 49ers, which is a fully doped team, is now being managed by a degenerate cocaine snorter who's their head coach. I'm not making this up. I swear to God, it's true. And the Tour de France, you know, when I grew up my whole life, everything that ABC, Wide World of Sports said, and all CBS Sports, NBC Sports, all the Roman Circus networks, they always said that the Russians and it was the Eastern Europeans who cheated and doped. It was only those pesky Eastern Europeans and evil Russians. They cheated and they doped. Right. Like Mark Spitz was clean, like Peter LaRocca, who I went to high school with, like he's clean, like Carl Lewis, Marion Jones, Flo Jo died of blood doping overdose, Regina Jacobs, Tori Edwards, Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn, he's clean. Are you crazy? He's loaded on hormones, amphetamines, morphine, heroin, cocaine, caffeine. Those are narcotics, and blood doping and testosterone and female fertility hormones. All those people take female fertility hormones because they're jacked up on so much testosterone. They have to take female fertility hormones, the men and the women. Pete Rose, Tony La Russa, Mark McGuire, Ron Darling, Roger Clemens, Alex Rodriguez. He dated J-Lo, right? Lance Armstrong, right? Are they all jealous losers? Am I a jealous loser? I'm not the one taking drugs. They are. They're taking drugs. You know, I heard the most crazy things during the Lance Armstrong decade era, where he won 7 Tours de France. Now they've deleted him, right? Like Anthony Fauci is being deleted in a humiliation ritual. Look, everybody who wore a yellow wrist bracelet, which is a Nike invention to sell sneakers, is an imbecile. If you wore a yellow wristband, you might as well get a bird flu vaccine. Where there is smoke, there cannot possibly be a fire. Where there is smoke. I had an attorney tell me once that I must have misremembered when I didn't give him the answer he wanted, that I misremembered. Look, Juxtaposition has been an auditor for 40 years. I never misremember, okay? Lawyers do. Lawyers lie. They lie when you're going to go to a deposition or when you're on the transcript in a hearing in a courtroom. Very few attorneys ever actually go to a trial, you know, less than 1%, because trials are very unusual. But there are literally tens of thousands of hearings in a courtroom that an attorney can shade their answers and lie and commit sophistry. Lawyers are guilty of sophistry, where it's difficult to prove the lie. But let's just say that they don't like to tell the truth. So we tell a modified version. It's called applied linguistics. That's what I'm trying to cut through here on my channel. That's what I mean by linguistical. My loquacious linguistical lunacy is I'm mocking them. I'm mocking the people who mock the truth. The fact of the matter is that everyone that's in Mountain View, including the Eddie DeBortello Super Bowl Stadium, everyone down there is under unhealthy, huge radiation exposure, not just from electromagnetic, which they are under an abundance of toxic waste, despite what the lunatic Gerald Bushberg will have you believe. I mean, believe him at your own peril. He believes in COVID. He believes in social distancing, 33 obedience level of 6 feet. He believes in mandatory vaccines. He believes in COVID. I would never believe a medical doctor or PhD in radiology who is a masker COVID believer. That means he's a disciple of Anthony Fauci. You going to believe Anthony Fauci? We're now ridiculing Anthony Fauci using another fraud, Rand Paul. And that means that Gerald Bushberg is a fraud too, because he was aligned with Fauci. So when Fauci is pushed down through the toilet drain, he will take with him Gerald Bushberg. He'll also take every CEO of every corporate American company, every international company under Swiss bank control. They'll have no credibility at all. That's Eric Schmidt too, talking about you. Michael Eisner talking about you. Bob Iger talking about you. Al Michaels talking about you. Rich Eisen talking about you. Hey, you know what else I'm talking about? Mina Kimes talking about you, Mina Kimes. You work at ESPN, fraudster Disney. Talking about you. Stephen A. Smith talking about you. Talking about the National Bastards Association, NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, and the Olympics. Talking about Bruce Jenner. Talking about Caitlyn. Talking about Mike Florio, talking about Chris Sims. Liar, liar, pants on fire. You have no credibility. You conceal steroid use. You conceal the abuse of amphetamines and morphine and cocaine. You conceal that the games are rigged and fixed by the corporate advertisers. You conceal that Kyle Shanahan went over the center line and is probably drunk and on drugs. 11 days. For 11 days, you kept your mouth shut. Chris Sims knew about that for 11 days, and he and Mike Florio didn't report it for 11 days. So they're just as bad as Diana Rossini and Adam Schefter, formerly of ESPN in the case of Diana Rossini, and the New York New York Times, and Adam Schefter, who is the lead dog, the top sports journalist for ESPN, and he's a bald-faced liar. He's a bald-faced liar, and he's invested in a gambling company, and Disney doesn't have a problem with that because Disney's in the addictiveness business. All right. Anyway, we have a whole bunch of people who are shameful, like Gerald Bush, PhD in radiology for UC Davis in Sacramento. Jeffrey Sachs, PhD from Harvard University, most likely seen with the gay former judge, the flaming judge, Andrew Napolitano. Those two are like Siamese twins. They do most of the shows together, and neither one can be trusted, along with PhD chicken hawk Victor Davis Hanson, a raisin farmer who fancies himself as a military historian, which he's not. So another fraud is Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is another plagiarist. These people are plagiarists. Dan Rather Be Bowling, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Oliver Silverstein Stone, Naomi Wolf, Simone Gold, Robert Malone. Okay. And then you got Lionel, whose real name is Michael LeBron. These are all linguistical frauds. Okay. They're plagiarists. Every industry has plagiarists. In the life science industry, there's actual real scientists who are working on new inventions, new creations in a laboratory. But for every scientist that works at a life science company or a laboratory, could be a weapons lab, it could be a bioweapons lab, or it could be an independent company like Chiron once was, is that there's at least 10 other scientists who are trying to steal through corporate espionage, industrial espionage. There's 10 scientists trying to steal the idea of a legitimate scientist and clone it. In the way Apotex uses generic labeling to mimic, copy and paste branded products and undercut them. Okay, so does that mean that Apotex is a leading edge of research? No, of course not. It just means they found a niche, right? Because the industry giants are so greedy that it gives rise to people who can come up with a better mousetrap at a lower price. But for the most part, that is plagiarism when you try to steal a scientific idea that's developed by a different person without their permission. That is like Seymour Hersh plagiarizing the work of Ronald Rettenhauer, who wrote a 13-page letter to Richard Nixon and 30 other people in the National Security Council and Congress. And he reads this 13 pages and he cherry picks what he wants to write to conceal the My Lai massacre, but to blame it all on William Calley. So he makes sure that the controllers get him an interview with William Calley on the United States Army base in Georgia, Camp Banding, which Ronald Rettenheimer never did. Ronald Rettenheimer never interviewed William Calley. He didn't need to. He interviewed 6 people who worked with William Calley at My Lai. So he interviewed 6 times more people than Seymour Hersh did. Anyway, they gave a Pulitzer Prize to Seymour Hersh, a plagiarist. And they gave a Nobel Prize to Jennifer Doudna, who did not invent CRISPR therapeutics. She didn't invent the idea of molecular engineering or molecular communications. You should give that award to Sir Isaac Newton. He was fooling around with prisms and using sunlight to create laser guns in the 1600s. This is long before Jennifer Doudna's great-great-grandparents were born, and yet the award goes to the current person who is then given the chancellor title of Chancellor of Biomedicine for UC Berkeley, Jennifer Doudna, who does not see patients. She's not a clinician, just like Gerald Bushberg does not see patients. And he's going around dismissing Havana syndrome, which is COVID. COVID means you're tethered to the cloud. If you have ringing in your ears, if you have chronic headaches, if you have spatial unawareness, if you live in a world and you can't see and you're staring at LED lights and you're tethered to the cloud and you are lethargic and tired, you have Havana syndrome, meaning you're overexposed to radiation. And when I mean radiation, I don't just mean electronic, magnetic frequency. I also mean photonic, light frequency. The sunlight bouncing off all that aluminum chalk, and I mean the LED lights when the sun goes down, and I'm talking about the ring cameras, which work on ultrasonic and sonic exposure radiation, just like your smart meters do. And almost every household has a smart meter now. All right, so radiation poisoning comes from light, sound, and magnetic resonance. It's not just EMF. And when we talk about flock cameras, then as if flock cameras are relevant, our society doesn't even need flock cameras. Everything is traced and tracked already. There's GPS transponders on all the vehicles that are sold for the last 20 years. They've been putting GPS trackers. Most cars have navigation systems on them, in addition to the sensors the bank and the dealer put on there. Yeah, it's 3 levels of surveillance on your car: manufacturer, finance company, and then the broker dealer that sold it to you. It's 3 different owners of sensors on your car. 3. And there's probably more than that. Anyway, when you're talking about flock cameras, everybody gets all in a tizzy about it. But don't you know all the human beings are traced and tracked 24/7 already? So you don't need a real ID, and you don't need a COVID vaccine, and you don't need an Omicron variant vaccine, and you don't need a bird flu or a monkeypox vaccine, because we have all this smart dust that's now in your body. So you've been augmented and you've been tethered to the cloud, unbeknownst to you. You thought by not complying with the mask mandates and the COVID mandates and the vaccine mandates that you were exempt, and you were wrong, because now all that junk is in your house. If you don't believe me, get an ultraviolet flashlight, turn all the lights off in your home, especially at night, get rid of all natural lighting, turn on that ultraviolet UV flashlight and see what dust particles you detect in your home, in your breathable airspace. You'll be astounded. But you can also just go outside at night and look up at the LED streetlights, and you'll see all that London fog. All right? You got to be an ignorant fool. Look at Rand Paul. He's an ophthalmologist, and he's blind as a bat. Rand Paul is blind as a bat. He says he doesn't know what a chemtrail is. All right. Okay. You don't know what a chemtrail is? Let me show you what a chemtrail is, Rand Paul. Let me show you what a chemtrail is. Does this look like a chemtrail to you? Does this look like chemtrails? Or can you see that okay? Is that sun glaring enough for you, Rand Paul? You don't get that? You don't see that? You don't know what that is, Rand Paul? You don't get that? You don't know what that is? Those are chemtrails, dummy. How dumb do you have to be? Let's do a little show here. Rand Paul doesn't know what a chemtrail is, but he knows about masking and COVID injections. Right. Rand Paul, a great American who cloaks himself in a 13-striped Swiss colonial flag. Rand Paul, an eye doctor who's more blind than Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, and Helen Keller. Rand Paul can't see chemtrails, right? Rand Paul can't see there's 3 colonial Swiss flags. There's no room to put these parachutes into Apollo 11's command module, which is landing in the Pacific Ocean. And Richard Nixon is waiting for delivery of these 3 astronauts aboard the United States Hornet aircraft carrier, which is a fake aircraft carrier. It was converted to an aircraft carrier. So Rand Paul probably can't see an obelisk in Geneva, Switzerland. If you Wikipedia Geneva, Switzerland, they'll tell you that there's no obelisks. What is this? It's obelisk in the center of Geneva, Switzerland. I have adopted a zero trust policy myself. I don't trust anything that I personally can't audit. All right. So Rand Paul, you're fired. I don't trust you. My bank, I don't trust you either. If I say, give me all my money back, and you start hemming and hawing and telling me it takes 30 days to order $20 bills, I'm going to tell you to get lost. This is another picture that Leo, my friend Leo, who doesn't see the sky. This is all chemtrail, silver skies. This is not normal for San Francisco. This is Fisherman's Wharf, where Joe DiMaggio grew up and worked with his brother and father. And they've now destroyed Fisherman's Wharf. There's no fish at Fisherman's Wharf anymore. There's not even a Bubba Gumps there anymore. But there's tons of aluminum chalk in the sky that you can breathe. This is San Francisco in the real time. This is Lance Armstrong. His career is based on Nike and the fact that he had no parental supervision. He has no ethics whatsoever. He is defending, Tadej Pogačar, who is a Slovenian, right? And before we had Tadej Pogačar, who dominated the Tour de France the last 5 of 6 years, we had Peter Sagan. He's from Slovakia. He won 6 green jerseys. So I had a Slovakia doper dominate the tour. Now I have a Slovenian doper dominating the tour. His boss is a Swiss national who is a doper that raced with Lance Armstrong, and they're sponsored by Switzerland using United Arab Emirates Dubai as the cover of the Swiss Bank Authority, and that's who dominating cycling today is Switzerland. And before we had Tadej Pogačar, before we had Peter Sagan, we had Lance Armstrong, who was run by Nike Corporation and the yellow wristband. Just do it, right? Just dope, just cheat, just lie. Then they fly in Sheryl Crow to give him a softer look, and they fly in Robin Williams to call anyone who suspected Lance Armstrong of being a liar and a doper and a cheat, along with Nike, that you're a jealous loser. You're a jealous loser. But now Robin Williams is dead, and Anthony Fauci is on the frying pan being flushed down the toilet with contempt of court allegations and charges. And Lance Armstrong is trying to rebuild his career so that he can be president of the United States someday. First, he's got to be governor of Texas, which is his next goal. That's what he's going to do. This guy is a complete narcissist sociopath, just like Donald Trump. So he's very qualified. What would Lieutenant Colombo say? He would say, I like to get that background information tight. Yeah, so do I. This guy was a fraud, is a fraud, and will always be a fraud. Those skies are polluted. Leo, you should get off YouTube. You're not qualified. I have zero trust in my friend Leo. I have zero trust in the moon landing and the Apollo program. I have zero confidence in people who don't see chemtrails over my town. I have zero confidence in medical doctors who are blind as bats and say that we don't have any radiation poisoning in our town and are quick to install stents or make recommendations for drugs and surgery. I am not confident in people who pretend to be senators from Kentucky when all your horses at the Kentucky Derby are on illegal drugs and you don't talk about it, Rand Paul, and your judges from Kentucky run bordellos and prostitution rings using the jails and the probation department. And Rand Paul doesn't say anything about the prostitution ring rampant in his state. And Rand Paul says he's never seen a chemtrail. And I can assure you, this is the sky over Kentucky. That's the skies over Kentucky. It's polluted, just like Rand Paul's fake act. All right. Anyway, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed my ranting, my loquacious linguistical lunacy. But you see, I don't like to take advice from gold-plated prima donnas, grandiose, self-important people such as Rand Paul, such as Gerald Bushberg, PhD, Jeffrey Sachs, PhD, Victor Davis Hanson, raisin farmer, PhD, Andrew Napolitano, fake judge, Steve Bannon, Dan Rather, Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Stu Peters, Oliver Silverstein Stone, Robert Malone, Simone Gold, Naomi Wolf, May Magnan Brussel, Ayn Rand, William F. Buckley. They can all just stick it where the sun don't shine. That's my video for today. And let me just say this about that. Fight the good fight, ladies and gentlemen. And just know we're on a zero trust program now. Zero trust means you have to verify and authenticate everything in our world. Take care now. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.